The auditorium smelled faintly of old wood and dust, the kind that clung to places where dreams were rehearsed more than they were realized. Sunlight streamed through high windows, illuminating music stands and rows of empty chairs. At the front of the room sat Miss Harrington, the school's longtime music director. Silver hair pulled into a strict bun, glasses perched on the edge of her nose, posture sharp enough to slice. On stage stood 17-year-old Aria Bennett, a black girl with deep brown skin, natural curls gathered into a loose puff, and a violin held gently under her chin. Her hands trembled, not because she lacked skill, but because she'd spent years learning what came next when she made a mistake in this room. Miss Harrington tapped her pen sharply. "Begin." Aria inhaled and drew the bow across the strings. The first notes of Sibelius's violin concerto swelled, bold, intense, almost hungry. Aria's sound was warm and rich, not the brittle precision Miss Harrington preferred, but something that pulsed and lived. She poured herself into the melody the way she had learned to survive many things, by feeling deeply. Miss Harrington's brows tightened. "Stop!" she snapped. Aria froze, bow suspended. "That," Miss Harrington said, "is not how this piece is meant to be played. You are being dramatic, overly emotional. Music is structure, discipline, tradition, not whatever this is you just tried to do." A faint, humiliating laugh escaped her, echoing off the walls. Aria's throat tightened. "I was trying to express the phrasing." "No," Miss Harrington cut her off. "You were trying to show off, and it just comes across as sloppy." She set her glasses down on the piano. "This is precisely why I told you Juilliard is a reach you should not entertain. They are not looking for this." She gestured vaguely, carelessly at Aria. Aria's grip on her violin tightened, fingers whitening. "I've been accepted to their live audition round," she said quietly, forcing her voice not to shake. Miss Harrington blinked, then gave a thin, disbelieving smile. "So they're letting you audition. That means nothing. Thousands audition, a few hundred get in, and students with your background rarely—" She caught herself, but only slightly. The silence after was heavier than the words. Aria lowered her violin slowly. "My background," she repeated, voice barely above a whisper. "You mean students like me." Miss Harrington didn't deny it. She just adjusted her posture and said, "You asked for honesty. I am giving it." Aria's heart pounded, not from fear, but from something sharper. She lifted the violin again, not asking permission this time. "I'll play again," she said. Miss Harrington opened her mouth to object, but stopped. Perhaps curiosity got the better of her. Perhaps arrogance. Aria played. This time the music was not careful. It was alive. The notes soared, mourned, pleaded. They were not neat. They were not obedient. They were real. Her bow moved like she was breathing through the wood, her soul threaded through each vibrating string. Every crescendo was a heartbeat, every diminuendo a memory, every swell a cry she had never been allowed to voice. The room changed. Even the air stilled to listen. When the final note faded, Miss Harrington opened her mouth, but no words came. Aria lowered her violin with steady hands. "I've already sent my audition recording," she said softly. Juilliard wrote back. "They said they heard something rare." Her voice did not break. It ringed. Miss Harrington looked away, not angry now, but shaken. Because for the first time, she understood. Aria didn't play music. She was music, and the world was about to find out. The morning of the audition came cold and gray, the kind of winter day where light felt thin and the world seemed to move slowly. Aria stood at her bedroom mirror, carefully tying the ribbon around her violin case. Her mother watched from the doorway, arms crossed gently, pride soft and steady in her eyes. "You ready, baby?" she asked. Aria nodded, but her hands lingered on the latch of the case. "Yeah, I think so." Her mother stepped closer, brushing a curl from Aria's forehead. "You don't have to think. You know." Her voice was warm, certain. "You've been ready." Aria exhaled, a breath that seemed to release more than nerves. Years of swallowed frustration, quiet resilience, and every moment she had been told she was not enough. Today those voices did not matter. The drive to the city was quiet. Arya's headphones rested around her neck, not playing anything. Silence held her focus better now. She watched buildings pass by like sheet music lines, tall and endless. When they arrived at the Performing Arts Center, the lobby buzzed with students from all over the country. Shiny black cases, expensive coats, the hush of practiced confidence. Some students stood with private tutors. Others clustered in groups from elite conservatories. Arya stood alone, except for her mother's steady presence. A few musicians eyed her violin, well-loved, its shine softened by use rather than cost. They didn't say anything. They didn't have to. Assumptions have a way of speaking without words. Arya lifted her chin slightly. She walked into the warm-up room. Inside, bows flew fast across strings. Scales, arpeggios, fragments of concertos filled the air. Arya set her case on a chair and opened it with care, as though the violin were something sacred, and to her, it was. She tightened her bow, rosined slowly, intentionally, as if claiming space one motion at a time. She played just a single note, long, rich, steady. Heads turned. Not because the note was loud, but because it was full, the kind of sound that came from someplace deeper than practice. A student beside her paused mid-scale and stared. "Who taught you?" he asked, not unkindly, just surprised. Arya answered truthfully. "Mostly myself." His eyebrows lifted, but he said nothing more, because he had heard enough. Minutes later, she was called to the audition room. The space was simple. 3 judges seated at a long table, no expressions, no invitations, no welcome. A piano sat untouched in the corner. A single music stand waited in the center of the room. Arya walked to it. Her heartbeat moved in time with her footsteps. She didn't glance at the judges, didn't search for approval. She placed the violin beneath her chin and took a breath. And then, she played. This time, the music wasn't a defense or proof or defiance. It was truth. Raw, vulnerable, beautiful in a way that didn't ask to be accepted. The sound rose like something living, like memory and hope and ache, woven into one long ribbon of sound. The judges didn't blink. One leaned forward, another set down his pen. When the final note finally faded, there was no applause. There never was in auditions. But the silence afterward was different, full, shaken, almost reverent. "You may go," one judge said softly, voice not dismissing her, but careful with the weight of the moment. Arya nodded once and left. The door closed behind her. The hallway felt wider now, the air easier to breathe. Her mother stood as soon as she saw her, searching her face. "How do you think it went?" she asked. Arya smiled, not big, not bold, just certain. "I didn't hold anything back." Her mother hugged her, slow and tight and real. Across town, Miss Harrington sat in her small office at school, snow drifting outside the window, replaying Arya's last performance in her mind, the one she had tried to stop. Something in her chest tightened. Not regret, not guilt. Recognition. Because she had taught hundreds of students, but none like Arya. For the first time, Miss Harrington wondered, not whether Arya was good enough for Juilliard, but whether Juilliard was ready for Arya. The results came on a Tuesday. Not a dramatic day, not a concert night, not a holiday. Just an ordinary afternoon where the sky was dull and the hallways smelled faintly of pencil shavings and floor wax. Arya sat in the music room during lunch, practicing quietly while the school buzzed outside the door. She wasn't obsessing, wasn't refreshing her email every 5 seconds. She had already done what mattered. She had played honestly. Her phone buzzed once, a soft vibration against the wooden chair. She froze, not because she was afraid, but because everything inside her suddenly went still. Her heart didn't race. It held. She unlocked the screen. One email. Subject line: Juilliard admissions decision. Her fingers hovered over the screen. She tapped. The message opened. There was no long breath, no dramatic suspense in her mind. Just a flicker of words, sharp and clean. "We are pleased to offer you admission into the Juilliard School." She didn't gasp. She didn't scream. She didn't drop the phone. She closed her eyes, letting the sentence settle like warm sun through clouds. She had always known the music was inside her. Now the world knew too. She took one slow breath and then smiled. Not the smile of surprise, the smile of arrival. Down the hall, Miss Harrington was sorting sheet music when she heard the faintest sound, a choked laugh, soft and relieved. She turned startled as Arya stepped into the doorway, violin case in hand. Their eyes met. For the first time, Miss Harrington did not stand taller. She did not assess. She did not correct. She simply looked. Arya didn't speak. She held out her phone. Miss Harrington read the email. Her breath caught so visibly it almost looked like she stumbled. Juilliard. Accepted. One of the few. One of the rare. One of the chosen. Miss Harrington lowered the phone slowly. Her voice, when it came, was no longer clipped or superior or distant. "You did it," she whispered. Arya nodded. Miss Harrington sat down, suddenly looking older, not in weakness, but in realization. She took off her glasses, wiping her eyes even though no tears had fallen. "I spent years teaching students how to follow the rules," she said quietly, "how to replicate what great musicians already created. But I forgot something." She looked up at Arya, really looked. Greatness doesn't follow. It becomes. Arya didn't say anything. She didn't need to. "And I almost taught you to shrink," Miss Harrington said, voice soft and painful. "To make your sound smaller. To make yourself smaller." She swallowed. "I was wrong." Arya set her violin case down and walked to the piano bench beside her. Not to comfort, just to be present. The way real respect feels. Miss Harrington's voice trembled. Not from weakness, but humility. "You didn't get into Juilliard in spite of the way you play," she said. "You got in because of it." Arya's chest warmed. Not from vindication, from being seen. Miss Harrington let out a long breath and stood. "If you'll allow me," she straightened herself, not rigid now, just composed. "I would like to help you prepare. If you want my help." Arya considered her. Not as an authority. Not as an obstacle. As a person who had finally learned. "Yes," Arya said, "I'd like that." And in that moment, neither of them was above the other. One had finally learned how to teach. The other had finally been recognized for who she already was. Not just a musician, but an artist. The spring recital drew a larger audience than anyone expected. The auditorium, once half filled with bored parents and restless students, now buzzed with anticipation. People whispered Arya's name the way one speaks of someone seen becoming something. Programs rustled. The stage lights glowed warm amber. The air felt alive. Backstage, Arya tightened her bow one last time. Her violin no longer felt like an instrument. It felt like a voice she had spent years growing into. She smoothed her dress, simple and elegant, nothing flashy. She didn't need flash. She had sound. Miss Harrington appeared beside her, not with instructions, not with correction, just presence. "You know," she said softly, "in 32 years of teaching, I've held many recitals, but I have never introduced a student quite like this." Arya looked up, surprised, not by the compliment, but by the sincerity. Miss Harrington continued, "You taught me something too, and I want the audience to hear that." She squeezed Arya's hand once, brief and steady, then stepped onto the stage. The crowd quieted immediately. Miss Harrington stood tall, but not rigid now. Her voice carried warmth instead of precision. "Good evening. Tonight we present our senior recital." She paused, her gaze sweeping the rows. "For years, I believed excellence came from discipline alone, from technique, structure, repetition." She took a slow breath. "But greatness comes from the courage to bring yourself into the music, to play not only the notes, but the truth inside them." A murmur, soft, moved. She turned toward the wings. "It is my honor to introduce a musician of rare authenticity and profound voice. She will continue her studies at the Juilliard School this fall." She smiled, not proud of herself, but proud for Arya. "Please welcome Arya Bennett." The applause was thunderous. Arya stepped into the light. She lifted the violin, and she played. This wasn't the performance she had given in class, or the one in auditions, or the one she had practiced late into the night. This was a farewell and an arrival. Her sound filled the hall with warmth, ache, hope, history. It moved like morning sunlight and heavy rain all at once. It was not perfect. It was human. Somewhere in the middle, she closed her eyes, not to block out the world, but to open to it. By the final note, the room was still, completely still. And then, the audience rose to their feet. The applause wasn't loud, it was full. People didn't clap to congratulate her. They clapped because they had been changed. Miss Harrington wiped her eyes openly now. No shame. No pretense. As Arya stepped off stage, her mother wrapped her arms around her, tight and trembling. "You didn't just play," she whispered. "You spoke." Arya rested her forehead against her mother's. "I finally didn't hold back." From the audience, Miss Harrington listened, her heart stretched open in a way she hadn't expected. She once believed teaching was shaping students into something known, but Arya had shown her that sometimes teaching meant stepping back and letting someone become something new.